Hello. This is a bit of a share about me, which is a little bit vulnerable. Anybody who knows me knows that in an environment where I'm with you, I am very open to being vulnerable and open to sharing my vulnerability. But as I suddenly had the insight download, bossy divine guides telling me that I needed to do this and put it publicly on my YouTube page, uh, you know, that's a little shakier. In fact, I've even got my daughter did this little lighthouse that says shine at the bottom in yellow. You can't see so well. And it was such a totem when she gave it to me, because lighthouses are literally on my vision board right now, or my treasure map, as I prefer to call it these days. And really just everywhere, showing up as a reminder to be true to myself and shine my light, because whoever finds me and wants to work with me or follow my free offerings or whatever it is, will get what they need. And I need to trust that those things will land in the right way. So that requires me to do a lot of my own deep personal work so that I can walk my own talk and be authentic. That's very important to me, to try and be authentic as much as possible in every situation in my life. It's not always easy, obviously, and taking stock, being accountable, and also trying to have fun in those things, because I can get a little serious about being responsible for myself and everything else in the world. I've got a lot of shadow stuff that I work on regularly, and I have learned to love my shadow stuff because it's informed who I am. So I'm coming in to just share a little bit about my journey and what I offer. And the primary reason that I'm feeling so inspired to do this is I'm stepping into a bit of a new energy with my red tent gathering. So for 7 years, that's a Saturn square for those who know astrology. For 7 years, I have been co-facilitating Red Tent Women's gatherings at New Moon every month, both in person and via the internet in a global way, with the most amazing woman who is and always will be my absolute soul sister. We have walked lifetimes together, and we will continue to walk this life and many others together, I have no doubt. And we had such a beautiful collaborative relationship. It was such a remarkable experience. It taught me so much about myself and about working with other people, and about not having to control everything and do everything myself, but rather how the energy of working with someone and in groups of women can actually, not only women, but in this case, women's circles, working in groups can actually make things better, not take away my control. And coming from my own history and past of being and needing to control situations from very, very young, I want to be very mindful of sharing things that have informed who I am without bashing anybody in my past who could be seen as the baddie, but actually we're all just part of the journey, because we are the villain in somebody else's story. Other people will be the villains in various parts of our story, but it's not about judging one's parents or one's teachers or one's partners, but rather about learning the lessons. But my journey started as a yoga teacher, which I still do and have an online platform for that as well. And it took me into my body. And the way that my childhood went and the way that my time until then went was that I was very disembodied, much more analytical. If I could control things from the level of my mind, then I felt safe. But of course, one is never in control. So I've never felt safe with a nervous system living in fight or flight or freeze mode all the time. It's even a constant thing now for me to unravel layers of that. And I think it will be forever. That's the other thing to realize. Like, I want to work with people knowing that I'm not a guru. I'm the guide from the side, and you are sage on your stage. Your journey is your journey. I will constantly be working on my journey, and that's the beauty of it. I think when I was younger, I thought that there would be a point I would reach where I would have hit the point where everything is fine, that happily ever after, because I worked hard and I was a good girl and all those things. And now going, no, life is going to throw you a lot of curveballs, and that's how life is, and that's normal, and that's okay. And you're going to struggle, and you're going to feel overwhelmed, and you're going to feel joy, and you're going to feel loss, and you're going to feel excited and creative, and you're going to feel stagnant and stuck, and all of those things are going to happen for sure. And sometimes they'll all be happening at once, and that's a real riot to be dealing with internally, which also got me onto my path of astrology, where I really began to understand that there are so many different moving parts of me. And if I can learn to at least accept and understand, not necessarily always be able to control and contain those moving parts of me, then I'm a lot more compassionate to me. I give myself a lot more space. I'm a lot more accepting, a lot more surrendered. And when I am that way with me, I can be that way with others. And sometimes I'm really not. Sometimes my inner critic is really being a bitch. She's on my case. And when I don't manage her well, then I'll start maybe harassing my kids or whatever the case may be. But we wind ourselves back and we remember we're human and we're doing the best we can in any given situation. And sometimes that looks awesome and sometimes it doesn't. And working in groups, we also get to see that that is true for everyone. You are not uniquely a bad parent or uniquely a crappy person. You are having moments of being not your best self. And that's kind of human. That's the journey. So my yoga led me to starting to embody myself, which led me down rabbit holes of learning about crystals and learning about essential oils. All of these informed my beginning of my work. I went on a acupressure process and studied so many different things. Dream analysis. I'm a voracious learner. I love knowledge. At one point, I thought I was trying to understand too many different things, but they all kind of infuse and inform the whole way that I come together with lots of different tools in the toolbox. And I want to teach people different tools and explore and experiment and play with different tools that work for you. So I work as a healer, and that has also been really fascinating, working with one-on-one with clients, some of whom have been with me for almost 2 decades now. And that's been really, really great for my personal development, because I have to keep checking in. Is this your thing that's coming up, or is it theirs? And so you have to keep doing the self-work always, for all of us. And astrology has always been there, but it was probably only in the last 5 years that it became a real driving force. And Red Tent has been with me for the last 7 years, as I said, which is women's gatherings at new moon, working in the lunar cycles. And the moon was really infusing the slow, gentle, cumulative embodying of all the different knowledges and all the different tools and all the different types of people that need different things. Do I meet you on an intellectual level first where you'll let me in? Or do I meet you at a heart level first where you'll let me in? And wherever I meet you, I'm prepared to meet you there. And learning to be okay with that, and learning not to try and control how our learning and how our growth happens, but rather to just go with the flow and trust intuition, which is also a whole journey in itself. So developing into that, developing into the Red Tent practices, working with women's groups, having my own children was a huge birth for me. I have 3 kids, and it was a whole birth for me into my body and into being a woman and into where there is magic in that, and owning it again, not against any gender, but just how my journey has taken me. And that is also why I feel so drawn to women's work. Although I'm really drawn to working with young teenagers, as a teenager with depression back in the day, I really also feel called. So oftentimes I was a child of depression too. So I've worked with a lot of children. I've worked with a lot of teens. I really feel like I've at this point done a lot of different learning, and each one is like a classroom for me. And Red Tent, as it has been, is changing now because my wonderful friend and I are no longer working together. We had to release that partnership for various reasons, which was so hard, is still so hard for both of us, but also sometimes it's the right thing. And so I am developing a completely new concept with Red Tent. And what I want to do is I want to help you to explore yourself, basically, through the lens of your astrology chart, but like one tiny piece at a time, because your astrology chart, your birth chart or natal chart, it's your blueprint. It's your potential in all directions. It can be your potential dramas and your potential downfall, but also your potential growth and exploration and luck and joy and love. So instead of feeling completely overwhelmed by this total foreign language that is spoken in so much symbolism and archetypal speak and woo-woo-y kind of over the top stuff, is just picking out one piece and living with that one piece for a month. Like, we'll take the planet Mars. In your chart, you look at where that is. We understand what Mars is about. We feel what our personal Mars energy is saying, and then we live that through the month, and we converse and we reflect. So you're learning what Mars is. You can then draw up charts for friends, family, and you can just look at that Mars point and go, well, where's their Mars? And how does that help me? And then the next month we move on to another piece of the puzzle. And so we will slowly, gently, cumulatively begin to build this embodied profile of ourselves. Where is this easy? Where is this challenging? How can I mitigate some of this intensity? And how can I encourage some of this growth? And then also, how do I then see that in my family members? So maybe I shouldn't be so hard on that child, because we just have a bit of a head-butting situation here where we have a very different operating system in this way. And just the knowing of that, giving you pause for thought and pause to drop into your heart before being reactive in situations. Goodness knows, I'm still reactive in many situations in parenting, but really just beginning to become more compassionate and trusting that sometimes that also comes from letting go. And I've just come to that point of having to let go of a marriage which is still very raw and very hard, and a very fascinating facet of my journey, learning how love is not always enough, and what is good for me and what is good for that person. And what is good for everyone comes back to what is good for me. Because if I'm not good, I can't be good for anybody else, my children, my partner, my clients, my friends, my whatever. And that constantly coming back to self and recognizing that the only place I actually have a level of control is my own voice in the world, my own place in the world, how I show up in the world. And in order to do that to the best of my ability, so that I feel proud to be who I am, is if I do the work. When things get sticky, when things get hard, when things feel like they're tearing me apart, to go to those places. And because I have got the courage to go to those places, sometimes kicking and screaming, I feel that it really helps me to help people to find that in themselves, or to just stand alongside people that already have that in themselves. So that's a little bit about me. You will see my free readings and forecasts here. I do cards as well. I do so many things I didn't even kind of touch on, but this just felt like a really good opportunity for me to speak a little bit more into who I am and how I got to this point and why I do the work that I do. And there have been real great challenges for me on every step of the journey. And if I had to go back and do it again, I would go back and do it again for the growth that I've had. And I would love to get to know you better and be part of your journey. So if anybody who is watching this would like to find out any more about my offerings, there is a link in the bio. And as for the Red Tent practice, we will be beginning that on the first Aries new moon of this 2023. And actually we have 2 Aries new moons for this year, which is unusual. I am an Aries moon, and it feels like it's a real rev to me to get myself into this new trajectory, this new beginning, this new world that I am in personally, and also that we are collectively beginning to embody so clearly. So get in touch. the offer, you will be able to join even not from the first one. So if you find this, get in touch, please comment, share, join the team. It would be lovely to have you along for the ride. So thank you for watching. This was a vulnerable share for me. So thank you for taking the time.